Have you ever felt like you were making choices, saying words, or reacting in ways that didn't quite feel like they were entirely your own? Have you ever caught yourself in a pattern, repeating mistakes, falling into the same conflicts, feeling emotions that don't seem to come from the present moment but something deeper, something older? Carl Jung spent his life studying the forces within us that shape our actions, the unseen influences that seem to pull the strings of our behavior without us realizing it. He believed that there is a hidden force that exists within all of us, silently guiding our decisions, our thoughts, and even our relationships. The question is, are you in control of it, or is it in control of you? As we age, we like to think that we have mastered ourselves, that we have seen enough of life to fully understand why we do the things we do. But the truth is, no matter how old we are, there are forces within us that continue to shape our actions, sometimes in ways we do not recognize. Jung called this force the unconscious, the hidden mind beneath the surface of awareness, where forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, and the deeper truths of who we are reside. The unconscious is not just a place where lost thoughts go. It is an active force, a living presence within us, pushing and pulling us in directions we do not always choose consciously. One of the ways this mysterious force controls us is through something Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the part of ourselves that we do not acknowledge, the emotions we have pushed down, the parts of our personality we have rejected, and the experiences we have not fully processed. If you have ever wondered why certain situations trigger strong emotions in you, why you feel an almost uncontrollable reaction to certain people, or why you keep falling into the same struggles, it is likely because your shadow is influencing you. The things we refuse to face in ourselves do not disappear. They move beneath the surface, shaping our reactions from the dark. For example, if someone spent their younger years always trying to please others, always seeking approval and avoiding conflict, they may believe they are kind and selfless. But if, deep down, there was resentment for never being able to speak their truth, that resentment does not simply vanish. Instead, it turns into subtle anger, frustration that surfaces in unexpected moments. They may snap at a loved one over something small, or feel bitterness toward those who seem to have the freedom to express themselves. This is the shadow in action, controlling from beneath, guiding emotions and behaviors without the person even realizing where they are coming from. Jung believed that the shadow was not something to be feared, but something to be understood. The more unaware we are of our shadow, the more control it has over us. But when we begin to recognize it, to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we have ignored, we regain power over our own lives. One of the greatest lessons of aging is learning that self-awareness is more important than external success, that true freedom comes from knowing ourselves deeply, rather than trying to control everything outside of us. Another way this hidden force controls us is through what Jung called archetypes, universal patterns of behavior and thought that live within the collective human psyche. These archetypes influence us from childhood, shaping our personalities, our relationships, and even our fears. Some people live most of their lives embodying the caregiver archetype, always putting others first, finding purpose in taking care of those around them. Others may embody the warrior archetype, spending their years fighting for what they believe in, always prepared to defend themselves or their values. These archetypes are not inherently good or bad, but when they become too dominant, they can take over a person's life without them realizing it. Imagine someone who has always been the responsible one in their family, the one who others rely on. If this identity becomes too strong, it may prevent them from ever allowing themselves to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to admit when they are tired. They may carry the weight of everyone else's problems, not because they have to, but because this unconscious force, the archetype, compels them to. Even when they want to rest, something inside them tells them they cannot, that their value comes from being needed by others. And so, they continue to give, even when they have nothing left. This is how the unconscious shapes our actions. It does not always feel like an external force, but rather a voice inside us, an instinct, a compulsion that seems natural. But when we take a step back, when we examine our own patterns, we begin to see the influence of something deeper, something older than just our present selves. The roles we play, the emotions that drive us, the choices we make without thinking, these are all guided by forces we may not fully understand. Jung also believed that dreams held the key to understanding the unconscious, that the images and symbols in our dreams reveal the deeper truths we do not acknowledge in waking life. Have you ever had a dream that left you unsettled, a dream where someone from your past appeared, or where you found yourself in a situation that felt deeply familiar but unexplainable? These dreams are messages from the unconscious, revealing what we may not yet be ready to face. They are reminders that there is more to us than just what we see on the surface. As we grow older, we have a unique opportunity to confront these hidden forces. In youth, life moves quickly, responsibilities take over, and there is little time for self-reflection. But in later years, there is space for deeper understanding, for asking the questions that truly matter. Why do I react the way I do? Why do I feel drawn to certain people and repelled by others? Why do I carry certain fears that have no clear explanation? The answers to these questions are not always obvious, but they are always present, waiting beneath the surface, in the shadow, in the unconscious. Understanding these hidden forces does not mean erasing them. It means integrating them, becoming whole. Jung believed that true wisdom comes not from rejecting the parts of ourselves we do not like, but from bringing them into the light. When we acknowledge our fears, they lose their power. When we recognize our patterns, we can change them. When we embrace the shadow, we free ourselves from its control. The most important thing to realize is that these forces do not have to control you. The unconscious may be powerful, but awareness is more powerful. The more you understand yourself, the more choices you truly have. Instead of being driven by unseen forces, you begin to move with purpose, with clarity. Instead of repeating patterns, you begin to create new paths. Instead of being pulled by emotions you do not understand, you begin to navigate life with a sense of inner peace. This is the great journey of self-awareness, a journey that does not end with age but deepens with it. There is always more to learn about ourselves, always more to uncover. And as we continue forward, the question remains, are we in control of our actions, or is something else guiding us? The answer, as Jung believed, lies not in the world outside, but in the world within. The more we begin to uncover the hidden forces shaping our actions, the more we start to notice patterns that have followed us throughout life. Carl Jung believed that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. How many times have you found yourself in the same type of situation, reacting in the same way, feeling the same emotions as if life keeps repeating itself? This is not coincidence. It is the unconscious playing out old stories, unresolved wounds, and deeply ingrained habits of thought and behavior. For many people, these hidden forces show up most powerfully in relationships. If you have ever wondered why you seem to attract certain types of people, those who take advantage of you, those who do not respect you, those who trigger your worst emotions, it is likely because something deep within you is drawing them in. This is not about blame. It is about understanding. Jung taught that we unconsciously seek out experiences that force us to confront the parts of ourselves we have ignored. If we have always suppressed anger, we may find ourselves in situations where we are constantly tested, forced to stand up for ourselves. If we have carried feelings of unworthiness, we may attract people who reflect that belief back to us, reinforcing what we secretly fear to be true. This is why some struggles never seem to end, because the lesson has not yet been learned. If we do not become aware of what is driving us, we repeat the same situations again and again. This is not bad luck, it is the unconscious seeking resolution. The only way to break the cycle is to bring awareness to it, to see the pattern for what it is, and to make a different choice. This is the work of self-discovery, and while it can be uncomfortable, it is also deeply liberating. Another way the unconscious controls us is through our fears. Many people go through life avoiding what makes them uncomfortable, convincing themselves that certain things are just not for them. But often, the things we fear the most hold the greatest lessons for us. Jung believed that fear was often a disguise for something deeper, an opportunity for growth that we resist because it challenges our self-image. If we fear speaking up, it may be because we were conditioned to believe our voice does not matter. If we fear change, it may be because we have built our identity around stability, even at the cost of our own happiness. But the more we avoid these fears, the more they control us. Have you ever noticed how avoiding something only seems to make it bigger? The more we resist facing a difficult truth, the more it shows up in our lives, forcing itself into our awareness. This is because the unconscious does not want to remain hidden forever. It wants integration. It wants us to see the full picture of who we are, not just the parts we like, but also the parts we have ignored, denied, or rejected. One of the most common ways the unconscious reveals itself is through projection. Jung explained that what we judge in others is often a reflection of something unresolved within ourselves. If we find ourselves deeply irritated by someone's arrogance, it may be because there is a part of us that feels insecure about our own abilities. If we resent someone's freedom, it may be because we have denied ourselves the ability to be free. Projection is the mind's way of showing us what we have yet to accept in ourselves. This is why some people trigger such strong emotions in us while others do not. It is not just about them, it is about what they represent within us. This is not to say that every negative reaction we have is unwarranted. Some people truly are toxic, and some situations truly are unacceptable. But when we find ourselves repeatedly experiencing strong emotional reactions to the same types of people, the same behaviors, or the same circumstances, it is worth asking, what is this revealing about me? The unconscious also shapes our sense of identity. Many people live their entire lives according to roles they did not consciously choose. They become the caretaker, the problem solver, the quiet one, the strong one. Labels that were given to them by family, by society, by past experiences. Over time, these labels become so ingrained that they feel like absolute truth. But are they? If you have always seen yourself as the one who must hold everything together, what happens when you let go? If you have always been the one who stays silent to keep the peace, what happens when you speak? If you have spent your life believing you are not good enough, what happens when you challenge that belief? The unconscious is not just made up of hidden fears and wounds, it also contains the untapped potential of who we could be if we allowed ourselves to break free from old identities. Jung believed that midlife and old age were the most powerful times for self-awareness because they offered the opportunity to step outside of the roles we had been playing. In youth, we are too busy proving ourselves, building our lives, and reacting to the demands of the world. But as we grow older, we have the chance to reflect, to question, to rewrite the story. Many people fear aging because they believe it is a decline, a fading away. But Jung saw it differently. He saw it as a chance to finally become whole. The most important thing to remember is that we are not doomed to be controlled by these hidden forces forever. The unconscious only has power over us when it remains unseen. The moment we bring awareness to our patterns, our fears, our projections, and our deeply held beliefs, we begin to take back control. We become active participants in our own lives rather than passive subjects of forces we do not understand. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is this: what parts of me have I ignored? What emotions have I suppressed? What dreams have I abandoned? The answers to these questions may not come immediately, but they will begin to reveal themselves in time. Understanding these hidden forces is not about blame, regret, or shame. It is about clarity. It is about finally seeing yourself as you truly are, without illusion, without pretense, without the weight of old stories dictating your future. The unconscious will always be there, but it does not have to control you. The more you engage with it, the more you integrate it into your awareness, the more you become free. And in that freedom, you will find something extraordinary. Not just a deeper understanding of yourself, but a new way of living, one where your actions are no longer dictated by forces you do not see, but by the conscious choices you make for yourself. The journey towards self-awareness is one of the most profound paths a person can take. The mysterious force that controls so many of our actions, the unconscious, will always be present, but the difference between those who live in its grip and those who break free is awareness. Carl Jung believed that the ultimate goal of life was individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating every hidden part of ourselves, both light and dark. The more we acknowledge what is hidden beneath the surface, the less control it has over us. The more we examine our patterns, our fears, our desires, the more we realize that we are not prisoners of our past, nor of the invisible forces that shape our behaviors. We have the power to step into our own lives fully, to act with clarity, to make choices that truly align with who we are. One of the most liberating realizations is that we are not bound to the roles we have always played. So many people live their entire lives feeling stuck, believing that they are simply the way they are, without ever questioning if they chose that way of being or if it was chosen for them by circumstances, by childhood experiences, by expectations placed upon them long before they had the chance to decide for themselves. But once you begin to question, once you start peeling back the layers, you realize that nothing about you is fixed. You are not simply the sum of your past experiences. You are a constantly evolving being, and the more you understand the unconscious, the more freedom you have to redefine yourself. Many people go through life believing that they are victims of fate, that their behaviors, their relationships, and their struggles are things that simply happen to them. But Jung understood that much of what happens in our lives is the result of unconscious patterns that we have not yet seen. The person who always finds themselves in toxic relationships may believe they are just unlucky, but if they look deeper, they may find that there is something inside them. Perhaps a belief about love, about worthiness, about what they think they deserve, that is drawing them toward the same painful situations again and again. The person who always sabotages their own happiness may think that life is just unfair, but in truth, there may be a hidden fear of success, a belief that they are not meant to be happy, a deep and unspoken insecurity keeping them from allowing themselves to step fully into joy. These are not random misfortunes. They are signs of the unconscious at work, directing actions and choices in ways we do not always see. The good news is that awareness is the key that unlocks everything. The more we bring these unconscious patterns to light, the more we see them for what they are, the less power they have over us. We begin to recognize the moments when we are acting out of fear rather than freedom. We start to notice when we are repeating an old story, living in an old identity, clinging to an old belief that no longer serves us. And when we see these things clearly, we have a choice. Continue repeating the same patterns or step into something new. One of the most powerful ways to break free from unconscious control is to embrace self-reflection. Jung often spoke about the importance of taking time to examine our thoughts, our emotions, our dreams, and our reactions. If something triggers a strong emotional response, ask why. If you keep encountering the same struggles, ask what lesson you have not yet learned. If you feel stuck, ask what part of yourself you have been ignoring. The answers are not always immediate, but the mere act of questioning brings awareness. And awareness is what turns the unconscious into the conscious, what allows you to take back control of your own actions. The more you understand yourself, the less the outside world can control you. You begin to move through life with a different kind of presence. You stop reacting out of habit and start responding with intention. You stop allowing fear to dictate your choices. You stop seeking validation from others because you realize that everything you need is already within you. You step into a kind of freedom that most people never experience, a state where you are no longer pulled by invisible forces, but where you stand firmly in your own power. This is the true meaning of wisdom. It is not about having all the answers. It is about knowing the right questions to ask. It is about understanding that the greatest mystery you will ever unravel is yourself. The unconscious is not your enemy. It is simply the part of you that has not yet been seen. And the more you bring it into the light, the more you will find that you are not just a passenger in life, but the one truly in control of where you are going. So if you've made it this far, I hope this message has resonated with you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss more insights on self-awareness, personal growth, and unlocking the power within you. Stay curious, stay aware, and remember, once you begin to see what was once hidden, you are no longer controlled by it. You are free. Take care and keep growing.